Thank you, Bonnie. Now, next up is Alan Ruff. And Alan is a U.S. historian and a longtime Madison anti-war activist and critic of U.S. interventionism in all its forms. He was one of the initial members of the Madison Area Peace Coalition that formed 20 years ago in the wake of September 11th, as the U.S. military machine geared up to invade Afghanistan. So here's Alan.
I've been asked today to say some words about Afghanistan. What can I possibly say in 5 minutes? I do want to say initially that what occurred on September 11th, 2001 did not fall from the sky, did not come out of the blue. History did not begin with that moment. As a matter of fact, the only way that we can understand, get a handle on what we're still involved in, meaning we, the United States, is to understand that this thing did not start 20 years ago, but started in the middle of World War II, if not further back. Why do I say that? Because while the U.S. was at war, policy planners, strategic thinkers were sitting in Washington saying, we're going to win this war. And what do we have to do? We're going to come out the strongest global power, and what do we have to do? And one of the things they said then, and it's continued to be a refrain since, is that we must control the greater Middle East. And what they were talking about, imagine this, was everything from Morocco on the Atlantic to Pakistan, across North Africa, through the entire Middle East, to Afghanistan and Pakistan. That has to be the context for any beginning to understand what this has been about. Now, there was a succession of conflicts in Afghanistan which started out as one of the poorest nations on the planet. It was devastated prior. There was a revolution that occurred in 1978, led by the left, led by communists, backed by the Soviet Union. And in response to that, the United States said, no, 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 no. We can't have Soviet involvement in that part of the world. It's our interest to keep them out. So there was civil war. It was then beginning in late 1979, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And in response to that, the U.S. and its allies in the regions, some of the most backward, repressive regimes in the world, topping the list, Saudi Arabia, provided aid, hundreds of millions of dollars, weapons, advisors, training to what was then called the Mujahideen, gathered in Pakistan. What Ronald Reagan called our valiant rebel freedom fighters. And they fought a 10-year battle aided by the U.S. against the Red Army in Afghanistan. And the Soviets left in '89. Then came another 8 years of civil war. Civil war between the very factions, among the very factions that the U.S. aided and abetted in the war against the Soviets. And out of that came the Taliban. And where did the Taliban come from? It was a break-off movement of young students. Taliban means students in Pushtun, who formed in late 1994, began with 50 members around Mullah Omar. Some of you might remember that name. and it swirls from there. There's so much I could talk about, but again, 5 minutes, it's already gone. I do want to call your attention to someone, however. There's a guy that will probably come into the new Taliban government named Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. He was one of the warlords, one of the most famous warlords. He was the recipient, his grouping within the Mujahideen Alliance, which later became known as the Northern Alliance, received 80% of U.S. funding. 80% of U.S. funding. He is now going to be probably in the new government. His name is popping up again. Popping up again. Let me close by saying this. If we don't know at least some of that history, and I gave a quick abbreviation here, then we're screwed.
Yes.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
Okay? The simple fact that we have a relatively small group here, and I'm happy with the turnout, but when you look in contrast to what's going on across the street, understand that that's in part due to the systematic erasure of our memory, our past, denied, buried, obfuscated, rewritten. The war in Afghanistan and what came subsequently was based upon